Well, okay, it is 9:01, and I'm calling the Columbia Open Space Committee regular meeting for Thursday, July 21, 2022 at 9 a.m. to order. Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Any additions, corrections? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstentions? So, okay. All right. Hi, Hunter.
Oh, she's voices.
Hi there.
Hey,
Okay, Honor, do we need to go in an executive session to hear from you?
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, I imagine you have things to do and places to go. So we'll move you first.
Great. Well, I was really hoping to just hear where things are with all the things that you guys are doing with Friends of Mono Pond. And I had talked to Mark the other day about deed stuff and just wanted to hear where things are on those fronts from you.
Okay, good. We have no audience of citizens, right?
correct.
Okay. Old business. Anything new on the need of favor? Did David Graham meet with you?
Yes, so we had a very nice memorial luncheon yesterday, and we invited the whole Ram family and the Kamsar family. And we dedicated these paintings given to us by the Kamsar, by the Rams, and Anita Ram collected them. And her favorite artists were Sawyer, Edith Sawyer, and this is Kamsar. And those two are Kamsar, and this is Sawyer. And then I have about 10 more paintings that were also donated to the town. These are Fiscal Phelps paintings. So we have 3 really big ones, and then a whole slew of smaller ones. And a lot of these are destined for the senior center. For display. So that was real nice, and everyone loved to see that we were going to honor, these are local artists too, in local New England scenes. So that was a real nice day. But specifically to your question of, have we done anything with the open space property that the Rams gave us in honor of deed? We have not.
Okay,
We just walked them, both you and Robin and myself. And Chris Ram wanted to walk it as well. And I want to kind of point out the challenges of where we could actually have an observation area of the marsh.
good.
But has it been conveyed to the town? Yeah,
Yes,
Okay.
and the other piece and
when we purchased
in,
at the end of Wells
yeah,
Road.
yes, yeah, that's town now.
Okay, that's great. The Ram acquisition in Wells Woods.
Mhm.
That's all a done deal. It came with a conservation restriction on it, which it's not a really good one. It has all those tiers.
3 years.
3 tiers. It's kind of a crazy one. But the big stickler on it is no public access. And of course, that is against what we vote.
But it's no physical access. It's not deeded no public access. It means we can't get to it. Is what you're saying.
No public access.
But what if the public now owns it?
Well, that's why I bring this up. We may have to get some lawyer to interpret that. Or we may have to go to the Attorney General to amend that conservation restriction, which probably I understand will not be difficult since it is for public use, but the conservation restriction prohibits that. When the Rams gave that open space set aside for the subdivision, the Lemonwood subdivision, they retained ownership of that property, which was questionable at the time anyway. Is it an open space set aside? They put the conservation restriction on it, ignored the template that we gave them, and had one written themselves by their lawyer. So they retained ownership and there was no public access.
Okay, so what do you think?
I
Mark,
don't
what do you
know,
think we
Honor,
need to
do
do?
you have an opinion?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that we just did this in a project that I worked on where there was, it was supposed to be someday a subdivision. That whole thing sort of fell apart at the seams and we were buying it subject to a conservation easement on portions, and it was very restrictive, like, you know, no dogs, I mean, and we took it to the Attorney General, and basically you don't need their like their approval, but I think it's sort of a courtesy that you bring it to them and say, you know, we intend to amend this for the greater public good. The landowner, the grantee and the grantor of the conservation easement are willing to sign, you know, sort of a, what do you call it, a dissolution of the easement. And so you can remove them when it is for the greater good of, you know, public and wildlife and things like that. So I think you'd have a pretty good case there, and I can definitely send you some of the sort of templates that we used with the Attorney General if the Rams are open to, you know, that you'd have to get their buy-in because they were the grantees, so, or grantors.
So who makes this presentation to the Attorney General? Any of us, or Mark, or?
You could
or-
have your town attorney, now that it's owned by the town, you would have the town attorney draft something up, and that's what we did in this other project in Simsbury. And basically saying, you know, here's what we're doing, here's why we're doing it, we're working with, you know, the state, and, you know, especially if the state is involved, and I don't know that they would be on this one, but that gives it a little bit of extra clout, because they want to, you know, town ownership is okay, but towns can do things with properties that they hold other than open space. And so you'd want to make sure that it was clear that, you know, the purposes and the deeded purposes were open space. So you're not just dissolving an easement for the sake of it, you know, becoming town property that, you know, you can go and put a parking lot on, right? So that's, you know, whether Rich Roberts could help you out with that. I'm happy to send some materials. He was involved in that transaction as well, so he would know what's going on. I think is that who you use, Mark, Rich?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Honor, when the town of Columbia held that easement, see, the Rams wrote the easement, retained ownership, but the town of Columbia held the easement,
Right.
held the restriction. Does that make a difference?
No, so you still need the town and the grantor, the Rams, to sign, that document, that legal document that says that they're mutually agreeing to dissolve it for the purposes of, I'd have to go back and look what exactly the verbiage was, but it wasn't that difficult. I mean, yes, you need, Stephen to probably be the one to sign it, give with the authority of, the board's support and all of that. And I'm assuming that wouldn't be any type of hurdle, but I don't know.
Yep, okay, thank you. And that's a good segue into I'm skipping around on the agenda. I discovered, I mean, somebody knew, but I didn't know. And I found out that there are a number of properties that the town has acquired for open space that have no conservation restriction language in the deeds. Specifically, the Overlander purchase and the Robinson purchase. And I think the Hop River is okay because that was an open space set aside, and that covers it, I think. I was concerned about that because without that language in the deed, the town in 50 years could turn around and plant a Walmart and
I've heard that rumor.
sell it to the highest bidder or whatever.
And I think the motion, so there's deed language that can restrict the property, but there's also the public trust. And so when people went out to vote in favor of the purchase of Overlander, what was the language in the motion? Was it for open space? And if it was, then, that in and of itself has some, holds it to that to some degree. And then, I think just specifically, talk to Mark about this, but I haven't made any headway with the state recently. Just, I know they're short-staffed and all this, but if the town wants to convey Robinson and or Overlander to the state as part of Mono Pond State Park, and I know that Overlander is a little bit squishier on that because of it was done prior to all of this coming together, but then you might not want to restrict it in ways that would limit what the state could and could not do with the property. Obviously, it's part of the state park, they have their own internal mechanisms and what they can do with state park land that sort of guide how they use it and how they let the public use it. So just for the Robinson piece and the Ram piece and maybe Overlander, you may want to put deed restrictions on there at some point, but I would recommend going through that with the state first, just to make sure they are on board. And if they do want those properties, which I would expect they do, it's just caught up in a bottleneck. Yeah, something to talk through.
And we seem to have this disconnect. The state doesn't seem to answer the phone. So do you have a secret way that we could contact the state and talk this over?
So I'm actually having a conversation with someone at, pretty high level at 10 o'clock today, and this is going to come up because at this point, I have reached out, a couple times, and I know, Mark expressed to me that, people are anxious and you want to move things along, and with good reason. So I will bring that up, and I will tell him where we are with things, and hopefully that produces some movement. I know, there's been some staffing changes, but that's, it's been the same story for like a year now. So I don't want to make excuses for them, but it's, they're supportive. They're just not moving things along as quickly as we'd like. And we'll try and see what we can do and how we can help them move things today.
Did the July 1 retirement deadline, did that affect open space significantly?
Yeah, there's a lot of folks that have retired and are retiring. That the head of the Trails program, Lori Giannotti, was there for like 20 years, and she retired. And that's where we sort of got, I'm a little bit stuck on the master trails plan, which is sort of, another element of this whole thing. But they just hired Kim Bradley, she was also acting president of one of the NEMBA chapters. She's, she's great. She was in all our photographs for Monopond, with the mountain bikes and her kids. And so I'm confident she's a mover and a shaker. We'll get some traction there now that she's on board. She just started like yesterday, so we might give her a week or two. And then, they're short staffed, but they are hiring. It's just slow. I think we're caught in a little bit of a churn here with the, kind of bureaucracy and who makes decisions and how they move forward. And I will, I'll nudge.
Thank you. What is the status of the IMBA plan?
So I reached out to the state, a couple folks there. We had a meeting with IMBA in the state, and I think, several months ago now, I let you guys know that the state's position was, well, we can't really deputize you to go do this plan and promise you that we're going to accept it and allow it to be implemented. And I understand that. IMBA understands that. We still think it would be worthwhile to go out and do a master trails plan. And, it is in the DEP's own guidelines that to work with, some of the best in class, which is IMBA and some others on trail planning, and that it would be inclusive of multi-use, accessible, single use. They would evaluate all the natural resources. They would work with the state. They would work with community groups. I mean, they do it with best practices, and the state was going to huddle up and talk about it and think about how and if they can sort of allow us to do it. We weren't asking for money from them, and I just never heard back. And I've sent a few follow-up emails now. Just we got a $4,000 grant from a foundation to get us about halfway there to paying for this plan, and we told the state there's a June 30th deadline on the Trail Accelerator grant, which would be IMBA's match. But they're not going to match it if they don't have state buy-in. And so we let them know. We didn't hear back. I nudged them. We didn't hear back. We missed that deadline. And now, it's here we are. Like I'm not getting anything either. So they're really busy. I'm just gonna, stay on them and hopefully we can meet the deadline for next year and get the plan underway. Or maybe we forego the Trail Accelerator grant and find another way to raise, another $6,000 so we can just pay for this plan and maybe that's not too hard. So we'll figure it out, but we really need to just, say, yeah, go ahead, do it. We're not going to throw it in the trash.
Okay, thank you. What's going on with Camp Laurel?
So PPL is interested in the property. We would have to move to executive session.
Executive session?
Yeah, it's executive session.
Hold on, no,
You want that in executive?
yes,
Okay.
9:22.
Oh, and I'll,
Out
Ron,
of
would
executive
you
session.
tell Tom
So
that,
we're out of executive session at 9:34 without making any motions or decisions.
right, Pine Street parking. Rob, tell us what you've done there. This is, this is the little piece on Pine Street that we're hoping we get parking on it.
So Rob just mapped out whole Pine Street area. I don't know if you can see this.
Great.
Basically, I had done survey on the horse farm next door, so when I looked into my computer, I found I actually had most of the information I needed to generate the boundary. I still need to go out there and recreate the control so that I can actually set markers. But pretty much we've got about 0.24 acres there, which of course, but the old Kinney Road. There's gonna be issues there as far as, one of the things I'll do when I go out there, I'll look and see how much the neighbor has actually encroached on that right away possibly into our property for that matter.
Yes,
So that's where we're at. So this is just a draft. It's accurate as far as the parcel itself goes, but it doesn't show necessarily any encroachments, anything like that, because I need to do that. That's it.
Isn't there a little building?
Yeah, it has to come down.
Is it in here?
It's in here, about here somewhere.
Oh, so the right of way is to the right of that? Oh, I thought there was a trail right on this side of the
No,
building.
this road is to the horse farm. That's their facility. To the right of this space is where the old road came in, right in here. If you're not looking
I
at it.
thought there was a little building right here.
Oh, no, I don't think so.
No,
That's grass.
From the paved road, it's on the right side of that parcel.
Well,
Yeah, but
30
I was
feet.
aware that Kinney Road is to the right of that.
Nope.
The little shed that you see is on the property.
Yes.
All right.
And Kinney is, the
And
right
Kinney
way
is
is to the right of that.
Again, I need to update this. This was done probably, what you're seeing on here is what it looked like 10 years ago.
Why would it change?
Probably hasn't changed much.
okay. And do we have any kind of a plan as to how we can clear all the boulders and,
We'll have to be public works with our loader and gravels. It would be a project. It would have to be planned out next year.
And like, if you're looking at the piece, the bottom left-hand corner, that just gravel driveway is a pretty steep hill down. So this is not a flat piece of property. So there's topography would be an issue as far as what you can do with it.
So what do we need to do?
Well, I think we have to set the pins and then we have to go talk to the neighbor. Because I think the reality is Kinney Road, I think is on his yard.
No, his yard's on the road.
They're one and the same.
I mean, from Pine Street till you get to the swamp down there, there's nothing remaining, we never know if there's ever a road there.
Right.
So it's,
And it kind of looks like there was a stream along the fence line of the horse barn.
there's some,
And it seems like a lot of stones have been placed in that stream bed.
wetland violation.
I think it's only a stream during seasonal flooding, like most times it's dry.
Yeah.
So it can overflow from the road. I think the stream on the other side of the road, I think it's just when it's a
I've
stream.
never seen water in it.
I haven't, but you can tell,
There's a little-
water.
I often wondered about that, how the mills made a living. When you look at,
Well, they stockpiled the water, that's why you have all these lakes. They needed to open it, like get out all the workers in the mill and go, okay, here it comes. Water flow down and it would run for a little while.
just a little while.
But then you stockpile it, and notice, I know there were 14 mills, that the one mill would use the water and they'd stockpile
Mhm.
it. Then they release it for the next mill, so they would keep using the water on the way down.
That's why the preserve has 5, well, has 3, and there's 2 more on the other side of the lake. Because when water comes, it goes. Everybody get ready.
They want the sunshine.
Yeah. Okay,
Okay, so we're gonna do Ken's soon.
Tom, can you give us an update
Whatever that
on
is.
the
I won't
Friends?
define soon.
So back in January, we started to put together the Friends of Mono Pond group. And Henry Beck, the attorney, offered to help us at no cost. And back and forth, he's been traveling and things, putting the documents together and asking for input from me for the documents. And right now, we're planning to meet with him next Tuesday night here, just the people that are on the board rather than a public meeting, to go over whatever he's got and see what else we need to do. So we'll
Next
know.
Tuesday night's the board of selectmen.
I thought it was, wasn't that this-
No,
No,
that's a
just
week
had
from
one.
next Tuesday. We just have, never mind.
Yeah, it seems like every time I have a meeting, I get bumped.
Right, no, I'm wrong. Okay.
I checked with Jen a couple of days ago to make sure I
Next
still.
Tuesday's the 26th.
Yeah, I think Henry's not gonna be able to get here until around 8 o'clock. So between now and then,
So 8 o'clock, we have a friends meeting.
Are we
Well,
getting,
it's
the meeting starting
at
yet, or we do it earlier?
I don't know yet. Because he was, Henry was gonna, we were going back and forth as to whether I had the most current documents to share with the board. So if he sends me some new documents, or whatever, I'm gonna either get new documents or the old documents sent to the board. And then we can review it, so we'll have questions for him,
Okay.
if we have questions. And then be ready for him at 8.
So,
And so far, everybody, other than, I think, one, is able to attend, so it should work out.
And when was the last time you had contact with David? Well,
So however many weeks ago it was, we went to that Hop River,
Up River Trail
Yep.
meeting with all of us.
Friends of Hop River, whatever they were trying to do.
Alliance.
That was the one and only time I talked to him in person.
Mhm.
I haven't reached out to him since then because we hadn't formally created our organization and there wasn't a rush. And the little bit that I've talked to him and heard is that everybody's understaffed at the state and this was kind of their busy season with all their seasonal hirings and stuff, so. I figured I'd wait till after we were really in existence and the weather was better in the fall and see what.
Yep.
If he could come and talk to us. Figure out what they want us to do and not do, you know?
And what are, how are things out on the state park? You're the one who has boots on the ground.
So I walked a lot out there during the winter and up until maybe a month or so ago. I haven't been out there in July at all. But I know prior to that, the state had gone through and painted all new boundary markers on the old property as well as all the new property.
Yeah.
And pretty much somebody, was I don't know if it's the state, I'm assuming it was, blazed all the existing trails that were out there. I don't know whether they're planning to keep those as trails or they were just,
Did they blaze off that myriad of
No.
mountain biking?
most everything has some blazes on it, yeah.
Not
The major-
all biking trails that I saw.
Not all the mountain biking trails, but some of the major ones that looped all around in there. I mean, there's all kinds of interconnecting trails out there, and some of the old mountain biking trails actually go off the property as it gets close to the airline trail, and then come back onto the property. So that's the kind of thing is if they, down the road, want to keep those trails, but want to move them, maybe that's something we, as volunteers, would do, some sort of working on the trails there.
Okay.
I had also, I'm still active with the Boy Scout program in town, and I had offered to get them to come out and at least go out and take the kids out to get familiar with the property and then maybe use them as volunteers down the road.
That was the one thing he said when he was here, was that they were gonna have somebody from the state go out and mark all the trails. When we saw him a long time ago.
Yeah, it was kind of a surprise to me. It's like, there was a bunch of trails that came off of Island Woods that we intentionally left unblazed, so as not to draw ATVers and stuff onto them. So now they're blazed, and whatever.
Tom,
Someone wants to ask Tom.
Go, Honor.
no, I was just to reiterate, you're saying that the state came out there and all of the existing, like, the old roads, Wellswoods Road and all that stuff, all the side trails have all been blazed by the state?
I don't know. I'm assuming it was, but at around the same time
They've
that,
been blazed, and we assume it was.
yeah, so around the same time that the yellow boundary paint was put up, a number of the trails also got blazed
On the trees.
on the trees, yeah.
Okay.
Not all the trails, but the major ones did. So whether it was the state or whether it was just somebody thinking they were helping, I don't know.
Is it one color or do they have to?
They had different colors.
Yes, colors. are-
Yeah, different colors and different shapes, and
But we don't have a map to tell us,
we have the original map where they went out and did their survey type thing.
showed all the trails.
Which is
Right, but I don't believe it,
That's on here.
but I don't believe that we have a corresponding one that shows colors of the trails or anything.
Okay, or naming them.
No, I don't know.
So just, not, I don't know if there's a, lack of communication between the leadership that is aware of what we're trying to, move forward with the master trails plan and all that, or if they're just saying, hey, we need to blaze these in the interim. But no one let me know. I don't know if they let you know, Mark.
Oh,
Just be good to remind them that, to keep us in the loop when possible about what they're doing out there. Cause you're gonna have folks that want to know what's happening, and it's nice to be able to give people an answer. So
that's David Buckman?
I don't know. I think is he the Salmon River Watershed? Like,
Yep.
Yes.
Yes, I think he's the only contact we really seem to have.
yeah, okay. I mean, even just a heads up here, hey, here's what we're doing. I'm sending my staff out there to go blaze trails, and, nice to know, right?
Yeah, it's like we didn't get any warning that they were doing the boundaries either. Just all of a sudden the yellow paint appeared.
Yeah, and boundaries to me is kind of like one thing. They have to do that for liability reasons, so people know they're on state property and all that. Especially when you have a lot of illicit use like the ATV stuff, but.
They put medallions up saying.
They put a few,
State Park, yeah.
some of it they do have, entering and leaving on both sides of the trees. Some of it, they put the pins out, or the pins were out, there was a lot of change. During the winter time, there was nothing out there on the new property. And a month or so ago, there was all kinds of work had been done.
Well, do we need to mark, we marked Mid Brook, Rob and I, but we haven't marked Robinson or Ram.
Well, Robinson's probably marked by them because that'd be one of their boundaries too.
Oh,
Well, I don't know if they did. Actually, I don't know if they would do that or not. I mean, like the
Jump.
Robinson is us.
oh, wait,
Go on her.
go ahead, Anna.
Just gonna say, I have to jump just to get myself a little bit prepared for this meeting at 10. I will keep you guys posted if we get anything about Mono Pond,
Okay.
along from this meeting. It's probably gonna take a few weeks for, to sort of trickle down the food chain. So I'll keep you posted, but thanks for everything. We'll be in touch. Keep me posted.
Thank you, Anna.
Thank you, Honor.
Bye.
Bye. You were in the middle of the sentence.
Oh, I just said, the Robinson piece is the town of Columbia, but if the state actually marked all their limits, they would have marked around it. I don't think they were. Technically, if that's what they're doing, they would have.
And how about Markel?
Marked out, they would have done too.
But right now, we still own it in partnership with Trust Public Land.
Markel, I thought Markel was. state.
No, I think-
that's
I
state.
think
all state
that
now,
and
isn't
in Singapore flipped. At least the.
So you think Markel is now owned by the state?
Yeah, that's right. So,
Okay, right, so Lebanon and Columbia just pitched in, the
Yes,
state bought it.
yes.
Yes, so the state owns Markel,
So the state's already gonna mark this blue line
and
back up.
in Singapore.
state and Nzinga. That's right, is state. Robinson is Columbia. And Overland, which is Midbrook. is-
Yes, we marked out Overland. And Robinson, I don't know if they would have not anticipated they may soon, some point they're gonna own it, they might not.
Nzinga goes across the water.
Yes.
I'd be curious to see if they have marked the boundary on the other side.
Yeah, it's not easy, it's not easy to get to.
I know.
You have to go through Overland. to get over there.
And
Or you
either
can-
that or across the river.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm curious, but it's too hot to keep a good look today.
The flies are really bad.
Yes,
They're gonna eat you alive.
I know,
I hate to
the
go-
woods is not a
There's
happy place.
There's a woman that walks on Hunt Road every morning, elderly lady, and she wears one of those African
Yeah.
wide brim hats with the knitting over.
She's smart.
Yeah, I have a head net too, wonderful. Keep the books.
I used to have one, I gotta get one.
Okay. Anyway, the next person with boots on the ground, and let's see if you can get across the Beaver Dam.
You can't, I was there last week. Can't,
You can,
I can't get across there.
but even in the
So,
drought.
so overgrown
Oh,
with shrubs. We couldn't get to where we could see the grass,
Yes.
where we could see the water. I couldn't get to it.
In the spring,
So,
before the foliage came
Yes.
out.
so that,
It was very clear a couple months ago.
This is just not a good time of year.
so that, the Beaver Dam, as far as I know, is on private property. It's not a part of Mono Pond State Park. From what I could tell, where all the boundary markers they had.
Silverstein. Is it
At the Steele's property, I believe.
Silverstein thing?
Silverstein, they'd be on Silverstein's property if they're not on.
Oh, you're talking about the other side?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Mono Ponds.
Yeah, I thought, is that what you meant by Beaver, what Beaver Dam?
Well, it's actually a road and the beavers have taken advantage of it. It's,
Up in our-
okay, if you start at the root cellar,
Toward the, you're talking about crossing
You're talking
the
about
Mid-Brook,
Mid-Brook.
Mid-Brook, you're not talking about Mono Pond. We were talking about Mono Pond.
oh, I'm sorry. Yes,
Um,
I'm talking about Newburgh. If you tootle across
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Nzinga goes on the other side of that. So I'd be curious too, because to see if they actually want it on this. Okay. We'll look it up in words after the humidity. Okay, let's see. Hot River Trail Alliance, we alluded to that. I just got the minutes and the listing. Did you get that? And you got that. Okay. Hot River Trail Alliance is the group that's forming. It's in the process of to take care of the Hot River bike trail, of which Columbia is a part.
What do you mean take care of?
Well, to help in its maintenance.
It's a state park, isn't
Yes, it is. It's a state park,
Do a lot of.
but they
it? So they're
accept,
gonna-
they
it's-
accept lots
It's not
of
called a friends group, but it's like a friends group.
And the towns are responsible for helping to take care of the.
Like
Because
pick
the
up
state-
trash.
So it's one big compound.
pick up trash, trim, things, when a tree falls across, go out there and cut it up. What else? I think the towns, actually Columbia's section between Hot River Road and Parker Bridge has a lot of, as you go along the trail, it looks like ATVs went off the side, so they collapsed part of it. And that's really the worst section. There's like 2 or 3 of those on that stretch, which happens to be Columbia's. So I don't know what we do about that, or if we're the ones to do it.
Well, we had a big washout a year ago, and the state finally did fill that in. It took a while,
Yeah,
but we notified them, they said they knew about it, they were working on it.
but, and as you're going along, if you're way over to the right and you're looking around, you go right on. I worry about it because I've got my grandson out there who's on the autism scale, so when he bikes, he goes like this, and I keep worrying he's gonna go right off into the river. He's a little worried. Anyway, okay, Salmon River watershed partnership. Have you got?
We made contact, there's a meeting coming, August 17th, Zoom meeting. Fun. But Nancy Parker, is the woman you told me about, very pleasant. Sent me some stuff.
Did you get their Sam River management plan that it started at the last meeting? We had a
There's a couple of
brainstorming.
minutes of that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good, because I just presented that, I gave that in correspondence to the board of selectmen, so they were aware of what Sam River Group is trying to do. Because eventually they're gonna ask for probably a per capita request from all the towns in the watershed to help beef up what they're doing. We right now get $500, a more sizable contribution.
Yes, because at the moment, the executive director is shared by,
She's funded by the 8 Mile River Watershed federal grant, which is $200,000.
So is that a nonprofit or kind of like the Friends of Mono Pond? So we're giving away money, maybe. Friends of Mono Pond might,
And if the
a
Friends,
local nonprofit might deserve some funding.
Friends need to officially request during the budgetary process. I mean, like request now, don't wait. 'cause the
Okay, I
budgetary
want
process
lots of money.
is-
Yeah, but
a plan of what
we
we're
have to have
doing.
a plan of what
Plan.
we're gonna do with money first. Which means we've got to talk to the state.
What we can do, to find out what we don't want to do.
But I don't know, is our plan to hire John as our executive director? But, okay, so the next Salmon River watershed meeting is August 17th on Zoom at 7.
I don't-
Okay,
I'm on it. I'll be there.
very good.
That's my first day.
Oh. Very good. And thank you.
And it isn't amazing, you reach a certain point, and then you start going backwards, you get young.
As far as yours, as far as numbers go, yeah. Easy to do.
I'm sorry.
Well, I used to forget, I forget what I was.
You're not gonna do that.
51.
Okay, let's see. I'm going through this long list of old business to see what missed. Okay, the Hop River open space. In the process of gathering people have information to get a management plan together for this new open space acquisition. And half of the property is under the domain. I say domain, it's all town property, but it's under the domain of the Historical Society because the Hop River Village and Hop River Mills were on this location. And our resident pit bull, Joan Hill, is in charge of trying to make it a state and possibly federally recognized historical site. She's also been out there in all this heat all summer with her loppers and her hedge trimmers and a chainsaw, and she has cleared the ruins.
That's a lot of work.
It's a tremendous amount of work. She's put together with the town and DPW.
And that's more now.
Yeah. Here's the map. I don't think we have anybody
No,
on Zoom. Okay. This is Hop River on the top. And
Just a question now, if we get that designated as some national historical site, is that gonna impact the rest of the site?
no, we will mark that off.
The only concern I have, and I've been clear with Joan,
Yep.
but I walked it with Bethlehem. This is the existing, this yellow, if everyone can see,
Yeah.
is the existing way into the open space field where you get to the river, where we're most interested in making it accessible to the public. Because this end where the mill was, this part of the river is not accessible here because there's a giant retaining wall. This part of the river, you walk right to the river.
Yeah.
So you could play here. And there's a giant field here where you could camp or have a picnic, whatever you want to do. This is the existing road, but this road goes right over the mill,
goes over what?
the mill foundation.
Oh,
So Joan wants to make this a historic national designated area. And the original plan was thought that we could move the road to this side of the sluice way. But to do this is a huge project, which right now we're so far behind in road work in town with Rec Park. that Beth said, I'm not getting to this for a long time. It's not happening. So what my concern is, this is going to exist to be our way in. If we make this national park, I told Joan to carve this out, because I don't want that in the national park and have them say, sorry, we've just,
Yeah.
we're excavating this to uncover the mill and you can't get into the park. So I don't know where that's gonna end.
Yeah, that's still under negotiation. She's been doing an awful lot of lopping and trimming up here.
What's the advantage of being a national, it would be neat to have, what's the advantage of a national park going to a state thing? So,
Funding.
Funding. And actually, with the help of Woodward, what's his first name?
Wall.
Walt, that's right, Walt Woodward, just retiring, could be very influential with getting that designation accomplished. So Walt has walked it with the state historian and myself and Ann and Joan. And they think this is probably a more exciting site than most sites they ever see, because it really was an active mill, many mills for many years.
Yeah.
But I'm really cautious of eliminating the easy way in to the property in order to excavate an old
Well,
foundation.
Here's my thinking. I was having walked it and seen it. Jones on its site, okay, and she cleared this trail. So it goes along the steep, the top of this kind of ridge, and then it goes straight down. And level
It would
down.
require a
And
lot of fill.
I said, you're not gonna get a car in here.
Well,
You
part
know?
of it is just how do you get the kayaks. I mean, you wanted to restrict parking at the top.
Right, you're only gonna bring cars in, the cars are just gonna park at the top. I need to get either a tractor in to mow the field, or someone needs to wheel in their kayak.
Yeah, because that's
On
what
two
it's gonna be.
wheels.
It's gonna be a kayak
Okay,
launch.
and here's the, yes, and you could, if you have a kayak park, could bring it in.
But kayaking is only in the spring, because right now you're not kayaking.
Actually, how.
There's no
It's only 6 inches deep.
You can hike the river now.
Right, it's a hiking route.
We did,
Wow.
it's just a series of photos right now.
Yeah, she is low.
And in
I
spring,
haven't gone over the wall.
Hop River's fairly narrow river,
Hmm.
so and it's kind of deep. But in the spring, it's actually not a very good kayaking river.
No, it's really bringing a chair and sit in the water and read river,
But from there to like the loops, I thought it was good.
not for a kayak.
Really?
Unless you're at the high ripping spring season.
How as far as the tree falls through there, what's that? No one's clearing that.
There's Lowhead Dam, just
On the other side of the room.
right here.
Yeah, I know there's a dam, but I mean,
So if you put your kayak in.
I haven't gone, I haven't
No dams.
gone down it.
I never tried to go down that.
I don't know what,
Have you?
I don't know how many
Yeah,
rocks
it's not that
are.
far of a ride.
Lot.
Some people with kayak like to go several miles. That's not a long distance from there down to the
No.
moose. That's a very short, especially when the water's flowing.
How about the Maxies?
Be there in no time.
Did you get the Mackies or?
Yeah, it's, it's this little river.
Yeah, well, they're different
The
levels of
Atlantic
conservation.
is much better. And yeah, she can get to the Atlantic from there. But anyway, as far as mowing, you don't want to put a tractor in there. It's a little tiny feet.
Well, I guess, Joan already mowed it with her own tractor. right?
Yeah, did you have to load her little lawnmower, her push mower? Joan got out there, she's
Yes,
pushing
it's
her
a
mower.
one-woman dynamo.
She does. She is.
I
It's
can't-
actually a bigger area than you would think to mow. It's not just a little
It's
front lawn or something. And it really would be passable with a town mower to get from the road down there and mow. You know, if if you wanted to.
Well, if you want to have an area that you're gonna keep open and cut, you're gonna have to have something.
Right, you're gonna have to keep on it, or it'll all fill in.
And there are different levels of federal recognition. It doesn't have to be this US park. It could be a National Register of Historic Places kind of designation, which doesn't come with nearly the restrictions that being a national park would have.
And I think that there's no superstructure left to the mill.
It's just evidence of foundation,
There's,
Yeah.
no
there's,
mill.
there's the
I
foundation.
don't think it goes.
So after she does her dig, she doesn't want a road there because, but you could bring a mower in.
Yeah, well, here's the other issue. As part of this set aside, we had to make sure that the property owner who wants to get down here, because another property owner owns past us. So we can't block him from getting here. So if all of a sudden this mill site becomes an archaeological dig and it's blocked, he's gonna say, then build me a road around it as the agreement states. That's my concern.
And then we'll be working with the part she cleared, Joan cleared.
Right, I think that's more work and expense than I'm gonna get approval to do.
And I don't think you have to develop it all that much. I don't think we're obligated to build him a road.
You just have to give him access.
He just has to have access.
Okay.
And if he doesn't have a vehicle that can negotiate the whoosh.
But this is
gonna
now
have to
town
walk.
property?
Yes,
And I don't know, is.
it should probably be marked too. We need to mark it with
Yes.
medallions so people know it's.
And that's the other issue. We've got to get the property markings up
Rob, we
there.
got some work to do.
I guess, it should be there. I guess that.
You need a team, you need a medallion team.
Because the quicker we get property medallions on
Yeah.
items, the better.
Like right in here, I talked to Joan about this. Originally, we did this, we did some rough topography in here, and then originally they were gonna try to put a house here. When that idea went by the way, we never went back here, so I don't trust the topography in here, I don't think it's as bad as this topography shows.
Okay.
I think it's probably not, particularly this, that little hole there in the ground. I only have one shot there, so it's not representing what's really there. So it may not be as bad what we're showing, although apparently when you cross back over that thing, it's gonna be a problem.
But I think that before we get too excited about building roads, what we need is gated parking there.
Yes, I told Beth, the priority is plant 2 telephone poles, boom, boom. Put a farmer's gate across with a lock, combination lock that we can get out, and then make sure the boulders are on the other side so cars can get in. We just want to block it from access,
Then we could give a key to the person who, the other guy, the guy who owns it back there.
or the combination, whatever.
Yeah.
We do.
And then, and until she's actually digging on that spot, we can bring them over.
Well, we just hired another maintainer, seasonal maintainer to help us town well.
Need two,
Is that
you need two mowers.
It's consuming us. What's that?
Is Tristan Ray Candlin's son?
Tristan, I don't know his name. I don't know who his parents are, but we just hired Kristen full-time, Tristan full-time.
Tristan.
Okay,
Okay, have I hit all the? And we did the mapping update,
Yeah, we looked at that.
we looked at that. Okay,
maybe your
Good.
management plan has to go to, or were you gonna discuss the management thing? Maybe that should go to the next
Yeah,
meeting.
okay, that's right, we were in the middle of that. So, I'm going to essentially, get Joan in free time to write the management plan for the history side.
Who wrote this? Did you,
I did,
by yourself?
I had input,
This is really good.
thank you.
I just wanted to, probably nobody else read.
Which one's that? Is that for the?
You want to get a copy of this?
Is that for the Mint Brook?
Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah, I read it.
yeah,
Good.
yeah. And it's ready to go, except for that one line that says about the conservation restriction. According to the conservation restriction in the deed, is how the sentence goes. And I don't know whether to take the sentence out or just leave it in there.
Tell them that part of the plan is to create a conservation.
And-
Language needs to be added to the deed,
And it
either by
was,
the state or by the town. It's still not done.
Right.
I could say that as part of the goal.
yeah, so I'll probably change that sentence.
Because it's
But other than that, I think it's pretty well said. So the management plan for Hop River property, open space, is I've got a new member of the Conservation Commission going out there to look and see if what lives there. You know, trees, bushes, grass, turtles, salamanders, all that stuff, to kind of do an inventory. So we know what we've got. And then, so I'm kind of waiting for that to come in. And this, by virtue of being an open space set aside, is therefore concerned.
Okay.
So I think that's okay.
Well, part of one of my to-dos will be to pull the motion and purchase the overlay that Rob's, see what that
Yes,
motion says. So that's in my,
yeah,
I'll get that.
because that may cover it. If that covers it for,
I know the discussion, certainly the overlander piece was always implied at the vote that it was gonna be.
Right, and you're protecting
it's always
one of the
implied.
prettiest parts of Wells Woods.
And the whole idea was to preserve it.
And
Exactly.
that is,
I don't know what's in writing, but I know that was part of the discussion.
I know it didn't have the normal, normal language because Anna was concerned that would complicate transferring it to the state. Because you'd have to break that covenant and add the state's covenant. So, and we thought the management plan between the state and us would proceed immediately until COVID hit and delayed 3 years.
And maybe more.
So we're not gonna vote on this motion that's in the agenda?
So what do you think?
I don't mind you, because it's a recommendation.
Okay,
So-
all right, then, I put this motion in here, and you've all read it in the agenda. So
Pretty much, no.
first of all, I just want your input on that. And our two newer members are not here. And I was very concerned that I wanted to hear their opinion. Because the rest of us are gonna all on the same page.
Let's put it off of them.
Hmm?
Let's table it for now.
Well, Mark's gonna look into what the wording is now, maybe. we should wait
So
till
I'll have more
anyways,
information
And
next
then we
month.
can decide
Okay.
whether, maybe it's not necessary.
Yeah, because it's not, there's
Probably is.
nothing done here that's, we don't agree, it needs to get done. It's just what process we're gonna take and
The
when.
two newer members might not agree.
Correct.
And
Can't assume.
I think that's why they were placed on this committee, to be the
Why do you think
devil's advocate. And, you know, we tend to all be on the same page, and At
You
least
shouldn't
I
be on
don't.
this committee unless you're for open space.
Well,
But otherwise, what's the point?
But they do give a different perspective that I don't usually even think of.
well, here's one thing like with.
So all of this information you shared with them prior to this meeting. They're not in attendance, but they could have said, we're not going to attend and we don't agree with that, which they didn't. So I would say you can go ahead and make the motion and with the people that are here, because they had the opportunity
Right.
to comment.
The Conservation Commission already, the exact same motion I made it. And they voted
The
unanimously.
motion's fine. We do want to conserve the property in perpetuity. There's no question there. It's
Yeah.
just,
And-
how do we do
Right,
it?
right, right.
What language do we eventually?
Exactly.
Okay, so we gonna make a motion?
So I'm gonna make the motion.
All right, make the motion. Go ahead.
Okay, I move that the Columbia Open Space Committee recommends that the Board of Selectmen correct the error of omission in the deeds of open space purchases to ensure that the land is conserved in perpetuity. Is there a second? Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? So moved. Okay, so we've gone on record that we need to, in language legally, preserve all of our words. This is not just,
Right, you're not targeting.
I'm not talking about specific. property.
Just to make sure our open space is open space.
Yes,
Right.
because, first of all, I think, I consider it a trust. We call, we beat the bushes, we get everybody out to that town meeting. And if that's omitted, then the town has wasted its money and we've wasted our
Well,
time.
here's one thing that came to light with Zeta Farm, because we were looking for a place for disc golf.
Mhm.
And Paul and I don't agree, but Paul is stating that the language we put in Zeta Farm negates disc golf because you would actually put a basket in the ground that's a recreational structure. So that, she says that means you can't play disc golf on Zeta Farm. Now, there's a side of me thinking, well, the basket can just be removed. It's not a permanent feature of the property.
Same issue came up with that field, building soccer fields out in the field. I mean, grass, but that's not
Right.
supposedly.
Yeah.
you can't
So
do
in
that.
theory,
If
Rec
there's
Park is for
something
soccer, not Zeta Farm. And maybe,
said,
I'm sure there's
and
discussion could go each way,
Yeah.
in the sense that if you're walking and enjoying nature, you don't want to see a soccer game going on. With
said,
a ton of kids screaming.
So over at Zeta Farm, we need to improve our trail signage and stuff and have posts and things.
And
And if you put a frisbee golf thing on top of that post,
but it's,
it is
it's,
kind of,
it's not
it's one
quite
of those things you gotta think
passive
about.
recreation, because there's
no,
infrastructure.
I understand all the
I know,
subtleties in that, as to what's,
And the other subtlety, if you look at, in East Haddam, if you come off of Chapel Pond, which is a little pond, it's part of the Connecticut River. But you can come off the river to Chapel Pond, it's the end of the Goodspeed Airport runway. The state has built two really nice big tent platforms. In case that floods, your tents. And it's not, it's pretty high up, but they also built a outhouse, a composting, serious outhouse like you see on the Appalachian Trail. Now, with our language we have, we couldn't do that. If you wanted to on Midbrook. You couldn't build a camping platform or an outhouse. But maybe someday you might want to do that. I'm just
Well,
saying,
there isn't any language there, and that's different, but the Zeta Farm has an Oswald grant. We used open space and watershed
Grant money,
grant money
purchase that.
in order to purchase that, so the state put the conservation restriction on it. We can allow for 10 platforms.
That's my point. So just be careful of the language you use, and how restrictive you are.
Exactly.
That's my.
Right.
I didn't know if we were going to eventually inherit the state's restriction.
And the area, there's a little bit of town land around Rec Park. And that it goes behind the Joshua Trust Trails. And you think of it as open space, but it has no conservation restriction on
The
it.
brand property.
Yes, and that piece,
What's the name, what do you call
The
it?
brand family
Brand Meadows.
gave,
It's
That's the
the
stuff.
Ellis property,
Cobb,
the Ellis property, on the swamp.
it's a
Yeah.
property
Behind
between
the
Red Park
Joshua.
and Route 66.
Well, that was different. There was,
oh,
I don't think we ever
that,
decided what we were gonna do with that piece. One point was the athletic field.
No,
tennis
but
courts.
we used recreation money to
Right.
purchase that, so we can't put. And the little bit of town property
Oh, I see
that
what
we
you're talking about.
took in
You're talking about the other
thing.
property. Okay.
in lieu of taxes and long ago.
That was the Axelrod
That-
property?
Yeah, that does not have conservation restriction on it, but that can be used for, and we probably won't. But there's another piece behind the West Street Cemetery that backs up to the
That's-
Coffee Trails.
that's what I wanted to ask you.
And that, I tried to get a conservation restriction on that and didn't get any traction. So I'm hoping that little piece will be protected.
Isn't that shown as Rec Park on the mapping? You know, it swings along behind
It's,
Joshua's Trust land. The white,
behind,
the white
but
trail,
between, on a white
the
trail,
white trail is
it's sitting
on
on,
this property.
Yeah.
Isn't that town property?
yes, it is.
Is that conservative?
And that's, you can't get to it from Rec Park without going through Joshua's
Right.
Trust.
Oh, I see.
So I think it's logical for that little piece to be restricted. Whereas the other ones, the Blue Trail,
So, yeah.
the Blue Trail and between Rec Park and the Blue Trail, that should be recreation land, which I hope won't be developed, but it's a logical piece.
Can I
Makes
just,
sense?
can I just bring up two quick points before we
Please do.
adjourn here? In old business, just to bring to the attention of our town administrator, since he's in attendance. We had two motions and votes recently, and we haven't had an update on them. One was on the Mono Pond. You know, the situation with Mono, you know, what's the status of Mono Pond?
Meaning,
Well, you were getting a new company
Right,
to
so-
monitor Columbia Lake.
we just last month completed our contract with a new company, it's called ESS. And they just started monitoring Columbia Lake. And I have not requested a proposal yet, which I need to do officially, of what it would cost for them to do an analysis of Mono Pond.
Right.
Because we don't have a budget.
Right.
Okay, so that's a good reminder, Paul.
I mean, if they just got in a boat and just went out there, they learn a lot.
Lean over the edge.
And then the second one was the ask one on first refusal.
And that's on my to-do list that I haven't gotten it.
If the shit hit the fan and the Congregational Church wanted to,
Okay.
that we would have a right of first refusal. And we were just gonna, I mean, the request was just to have, that's when you were
You were
saying
gone,
that, just to have the attorney have a look at that. And see if that was feasible to do.
Any other board member comments? Any other comments, Tom?
I just, the Midbrook, management plan, it's been a while since I looked at it.
Yeah.
I know, I think in there you said something about dogs on a leash rather than dogs under control. I think most everything else in Columbia is just dogs under the owner's control rather than leash. And then, I don't remember, was there anything in there about hunting?
Yeah, bow
Yes.
hunting, bow hunting.
Okay. So I was,
I think I put leash trying to make it match the state
oh, okay.
because,
Doesn't state have under control?
no, I think.
Well, it's like anything, you're not gonna enforce it out there anyway, but just,
Yeah, most hunting dogs are under the person's control because you can't,
the most family pets are.
because they have electric collar and they get zapped if they know they may.
It's
under your-
citizenship of Rhode Island.
But I think with the Mile Pond
When is Millie coming back?
rules and regs,
It's just
at
one
the
week.
boat launch.
Yeah, no, I just saw
I
it.
think it says.
I meant to ask you about that, but
Yes,
Yeah.
so I, and under control is the nebulous term.
yeah. So the other thing was, so Zegger Farm, we opened it up to bow hunting. At this point, we have two people that have been approved, two applicants.
I haven't signed their,
Boys coming.
they haven't told me which dates they want.
All right, so I,
For a week.
It's done by permit?
Yes, town signed permit.
Back out.
Just tell them,
so I,
they can pick the first date and then if no one comes, it can roll over to.
so I talked to both of them on the phone, told them that whenever, at some point we meet up and I would take them for a walk, so they were already aware. And they're actually friends of each other, so it'll be easy for them to work together.
And if they want, let's say they want November for the rep, and that's their first choice, but then no one signs up for September 15th, then I'll give them September 15th for the,
Okay, I'll let them know.
you know, something like that. We'll be real flexible.
Okay, any other board member comments?
Okay.
I move we adjourn
All right.
at 10:30.
All right.
Okay,
Vacation.
thank you.
You got a place or?
Where?
Not Airbnb?
I don't know.
Airbnb?
This is the very last minute.
So, no, so a number of years ago, back when Natasha was. Now, I already been over there a few times. So last year, I had an old right around the one that was on the town broke down. And the place that I ran down, my second year, it was small, right around the one. And then as far as the trails, I did the black stones. Yeah, what I'm saying for me, my son Chris is now at these two. So I'm gonna get him involved.
Not
Sure, colors is gonna be-
In the little barn there, that's. Yeah, so that's all, so we have a riding lawnmower,
You better.
when it's working, we have one behind.